Ladies and gentlemen, haven't I got a treat for you today? Welcome to Nova Holistic Podcast. My name is Diana, and I'm going to be your host today, and we're going to talk to my beautiful international guest, lovely Paula Jane Newman. Hello, sweetheart. Welcome. I'm so happy to have you on the podcast. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. It is Halloween here at about 6 p.m. in Los Angeles, so you might hear some kids trick-or-treating in the background.
Oh, that's very cool.
Although I do have this.
Show me.
You love it. Okay, ready? I don't know how do I turn it on? Oh gosh, here we go. Watch the. Can you see the happy Halloween?
I can. That's very cute.
Okay, now I have to figure out how to stop it.
Okay.
I did it.
There we go. That's amazing. Well, happy Halloween.
Okay.
Here in Australia, well, in Sydney, it's gotten some traction, the whole Halloween celebrations, but I would imagine that it's not even close to the way it's celebrated and honoured in the States.
Yes, it's fascinating because I live across from two schools, and one is a regular school and one is a Catholic school. So they don't have the Halloween celebration. They have the day after, November 1st, which is the celebration of the dead and the souls.
Yeah, of course. Okay. Amazing. What an energy to hold space for this conversation. Super potent. It's amazing. So welcome. I'm really excited to speak to you. We got connected by Nicholas, who was my first guest on this podcast, which is really amazing. And you and Nicholas had connected in the past, through work and other connections. So it's really lovely how there's this network of like-hearted people that are sort of working towards a similar, in similar service to the world, I guess I want to say. Yeah. So tell us, to start with, tell us a little bit about you, about your work, about meditation and comedy. I can't wait for the world to hear about you.
Yes, well, those of you who have heard I live in Los Angeles might be wondering what exactly is Kate Winslet doing coming out of your mouth. I am originally from the UK and I moved to America as a teenager. I couldn't stand it anymore. I needed to get out. The whole of England apparently was my problem. And I wanted to go to America to be recognized, right? That was my whole thing. I'm going to be a performer. I'm going to be seen and heard. I do love England. I love the countryside. I love the forest. I love so much about it. But it was evident that I was not going to be able to thrive there. And my father had remarried an American. So I made the insane decision to go and live with someone you've never lived with for 12 years. And so I sort of held my dad accountable to a summer acting course at the American Conservatory Theatre in San Francisco. And I went there for the summer. I got accepted into drama school in England and decided I needed a year off. I mean, now everyone, starts really young, super young. I had no idea. I simply felt like I couldn't be in school anymore. I couldn't do it. And I remember even at 19 being tired in the afternoon and then lying on the floor with my knees up on a chair or sort of on a bed, as it were, and just resting and closing my eyes and having what people would probably call a power nap now, right? And that I needed that rest. I think if I was to ever change anything in my life, I would have then sought out meditation that I do now, because that was the beginning signs of my body was getting very fatigued and having a cup of tea and a bit of chocolate was not really doing it enough for my nervous system. But I didn't grow up, I wasn't raised in a consciousness of alternative healing, or it was very much fight or flight. Like you've got to get educated, and if you've got to get educated, then you've got to get a job, and then I don't know what you're going to do, Paula, if you want to follow the arts. Like there's no one in the family who does it, you're not a model, right? All these things that I was not, a lot of fear-based. And that was the consciousness I grew up. And I grew with a single parent mum. It was very stressful. And I was the eldest child. So I took on a lot of that consciousness as well. And I fundamentally believed that I had put an order in to God, and I'd got the wrong thing back. I'd got the wrong body. I'd got the wrong family. I was in the wrong time period. I have an apple body shape. It doesn't go in at the middle. I should have been in the Renaissance period, where I would have, I looked like I walked right out of an English period film. So that's where I thought everything was wrong. Everything was wrong. I'm very uncomfortable being in the body that I had. And I came to America, and in a year, then I got accepted into a pretty prestigious arts program. I did that, and everyone usually went to New York, and I was like, forget that. I'm not doing that. It's too cold. I grew up in England. So I helped create our first, what I call West Coast showcase, and I moved out to Los Angeles. And within a few years, I got hurt working in an office, filing, doing computer work. I was the ergonomic person. I had it all. And my body did not respond normally to the medicines. And I then went on a path of, everything fell apart. The potential marriage relationship that went away. I couldn't dress myself, and I was in so much pain. I was having panic attacks when the disability check arrived. I was freaking out. I was too young, and they wanted to numb nerves in my neck, and I thought, I was told it was all in my head. And that there was, people said it will come back to England. And I was like, do what? And do what? Like suffer in England? That's not going to, I have to face something that's going on with my body. And at the time, there were some musicians and some books about repetitive stress injuries, right? But I didn't know until I was in the workman's compensation doctor's office that it was just packed with people with these computer injuries, just packed. And usually when people think, oh, you're on the system, that, you're trying to get one by. And it wasn't necessarily full of people like that. There I am, educated, and my body is betraying me. And when it was myofascial pain syndrome is what they call it, the left side, it tweaks up the scalene, the occiput, and then it goes right back in the trapezius so deep that even body work I've had with people who work on, American football linebackers and have them screaming, I'm like, yeah, it hurts, but because I've had so much work done, it's not about being a wimp. There's a trigger pattern, and now we get more to somatic work. But I then was told to look into meditation because I got to a point where I was literally blotting out my consciousness with pills up the wazoo, booze if you could, and none of it actually helped with the pain. It numbed me, but the psychological pain was still there. Will anyone love me? Will I have a family? Will I get famous? Will they all these things? And I was too young for that to happen. And
Sorry, Paula, how old were you? Sorry to interrupt, but I'm just trying to get a sense for, where you were in your life when this happened.
So I was 31. It happened on my birthday when it happened. Wow. It was 5 years. I was a bit late going into drama school because I wanted to see the world and things. Mm-hmm. And so then it was really clear that I had what I would call a moment of enlightenment, if you wish to call it. maybe that's what we can call it. But I realized that I was starting to fantasize about, what if I was the queen and I had all this money and I had all these things, right? Like, it wouldn't be a problem. This wouldn't be a problem. But then as I was doing that, my mind was realizing that I'd probably be complaining, to my lady in waiting that, the jewels are too heavy, or that, that, oh God, you're so lucky. And then please go forth and get my opiates. That I realized that there was a state of consciousness that I was carrying, whether I imagined me having all the stuff that would fix me, and then when I don't. And then I realized that the common denominator was my mind, not my body. And that I was going to have to get down and dirty, as it were, to find out, why did I have this nervous system that goes into fight or flight? Why do I have these anxiety levels? Why do I feel like I have to have plan A, B, C, D, E, F, all the way? And the only way to really do that, I made this choice, was that I was going to have to put down all the pills, all the prescriptions, all the booze, all the mind-altering substances, to then see what came up, and then start taking a look at that. And as I was doing that,
that's a big decision, sweetheart. That's a really huge decision to take away all the masking stuff so that you can learn what's actually authentic, what will authentically come up. Yeah.
Well, that is a big decision, and it followed the decision of, I actually still want to be here on this planet, which meant that there was a turmoil in the brain about not being here, right? Because I was taught, you have to have the stuff. You're not a failure if you get the stuff, if you get a relationship, if you have a career. Like, you can have a career and not have children, but what if you don't have children, you don't have a magnificent career? Like, everything was based on how I appear in the world, not who I am as a soul, as a spirit, and what I give the world, connecting to, well, let's say divine love, as in love within who we are. And everything was backwards, right? And so that decision did not come out of me being enlightened. It came out of me not wanting to be in the ground. And that was because something in me thought, you're only going to have to come back and do it again.
Yes, I'm not laughing. I'm so related. That's so relatable, because I've had exactly the same process. It's like, if I don't work this out now, I'm just going to have to come back and do this again. I don't want to be doing this again. Ugh, yeah.
The only way is through. That's the only way. No shortcuts. And with that, someone then suggested look into meditation to help deal with all the feelings that are coming up, deal with the anxiety. And I tried lots of practices, and I found one that I didn't believe would work. And I, at the time, was not sleeping at night because of the pain. I would sleep for 3 hours in the afternoon because I'd pass out. And I tried it. I went home. I knew I needed a teacher, someone to show me, because I tried so many things, I tried so many things. And I sat there and I had loads of thoughts, busy mind. And I thought, that's exhausting. I never, ever want to do that again. I lay down for my 3-hour nap. And within about 5 or 10 minutes, my body said, nope, we don't need to go to sleep. And I sat up and thought, well, now what? I'm not healed, but I'm also not passed out for 3 hours. So I realized, well, I better go back the next day to find out what the teacher's talking about. And it was a process of getting those circadian rhythms back online. And again, it doesn't come from a place of me being really spiritually awakened. I was panicking, like, what can I do to earn my money at this point? Everything was becoming online, forward motion, driving, brushing your teeth, brushing your hair. And I thought, well, I don't know, I could be a woman with an English accent on the hill teaching meditation. People would think that I'm wise. And
whatever motivation works, right?
And that was, okay, I'll try and I'll take some more courses or classes and see what happens. And then I did a bunch, and then, I went to India and did that whole thing. And, my life, it actually wasn't like, oh, yes, you're a meditation teacher now. Oh, yes, everything is happy and blah, blah, blah. No, I was up against people who looked like this idyllic image of what people are supposed to be as meditation teachers. With lots of followers on Instagram, or your body you're struggling to be a size 0, or I don't know what that is in Australia, but like super, super skinny. And I wasn't that. But the whole time I kept having this voice saying, you should just turn everything to non-profit and help people like you. Because who was I helping? People who'd been in physical pain, people who'd gone down the gutter and come back up, right? People who were trying to do this without mind-altering substances and face their trauma, right? And really start to change their lives and live a healthful lifestyle for the body that they have, and start to find joy in the world around them, because the body's going to drop. What am I doing in between it? Am I making myself just go through this complete and utter torture because I'm supposed to require certain things at certain times? And then what happened was, performance-wise, I couldn't do things. I couldn't audition anymore. I got hurt, and I got a small part in a big film, and that kept me in America. And that, I'm sure, is absolutely divine placement, because I wouldn't be able, that was the reason why I kept staying in America. And I then started getting into voice work, and that was slightly different. And then when I started to want to make more headway helping other people, I'd had a few stints where I first came out of drama school. A producer of a well-known telethon, he's not around anymore, Jerry Lewis, was a very well-known comedian in America, and he would do his telethon for him. And this producer said, you should go into comedy. I was like, I don't know how to do it though. Like, I can be funny if I'm talking, but I don't know how to do it. I mean, I know how to get on stage, and I had what I call the first flub. I didn't really get it. I didn't really go on stage, honestly. I just watched people. And then I was like, no, it's not my cup of tea. And then after I got hurt for a while, I was participating in a charity event, and it was comedy. And there was a woman there who seemed super nice. And I took a class from her, and I started to have a few things come quite quickly. And then, unfortunately, I went to a open mic where you practice, and everything I don't want to be clean on YouTube, but there were horrible jokes about women. And any woman that said anything got shut down. And this is before COVID, many years before COVID. And I thought, that's it. I'm not sticking around for this rubbish. Life is too short. I've got too much stuff to do. But then COVID happened, and I knew we needed to laugh. And I found another teacher online of this meditation who was behind a microphone. And I thought, let's do something global to raise money for this nonprofit that hasn't really started, but we can help people online, get it moving. And why don't we support, for once, our meditation teachers, our alternative health teachers, who usually give so much service and want to help people, and alternative practices, even though they're not really alternative, are they?
No.
Don't get the same recognition or financial contribution. And so we did that, and it pulled me back in. And a friend of mine who's done lots of comedy called me up the next day and said, so why are you not doing it? I was like, well, he's like, think you need to. I was like, and I sort of let it slide. And then we did another online event because we were still dealing with, we couldn't do events. And I was begging them to please do the master of the ceremonies. And they said, no, you need to do it. And I was like, you can do it. And he said, you realize not many people can do that and switch into the nonprofit person and switch into a set? I was like, I don't know what you're talking about because it's easy for me. He's like, yeah, you just, he goes, I'll give you some time. I'll do something for you, but you need to do this. So then I did it and we raised more money because I was in the front. And then the next day, he called me up again. I was like, so, or maybe it was an email this time, but it was the same thing. Like, do you get it? Do you get it? And I was like, and then what happened was, this was Christmas, like January, I did a friendly open mic, right, on Zoom, and I bombed so bad. I was like, I never want to feel like this about myself ever again. I'm done. And the next morning I sat and meditated and I thought, what do you want? What I really want is to share my truth to help others and maybe some game show stuff. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that afternoon, a job posting came up to do a radio comedy thing. And I had this intuition. I was like, oh no, I bet if I submit it, I get the job. Problem was, it was for like 45 minutes, an hour, and I didn't have an hour's worth of material. I didn't have it. I was like, well, you know what? That's not your decision, is it? You just submit for it and see what happens. Well, like 30 minutes later, they're like, you're booked. I was like, oh no. And they then said, by the way, would you like to dial into some of our game shows? And I was like, so they're paying me. And a lot of comics in America, you don't get paid unless you're like doing this or you're following a headliner, blah, 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 or you're hosting. It's a whole. And I thought, oh, you've just got what you asked for on the 1st of January. Okay. And then what began to ensue was me being very particular. And I definitely feel like it was a karmic thing I was going through, because whenever I would practice, it was just like coming from in me, and it was somewhat painful. I was like, why is this so painful? Not only with my physical injury, I was like, something is happening here. And I then aligned with some people to really do more charity work, because I said I'd only ever do it if it was charity or I was something getting out of it artistically. And we then started to create what we call Rise Up Comedy, which is in alignment with the nonprofit, which means we do cleanish comedy. No one is talked down to in the audience. The comics are uplifted. So if somebody wants to do their first 30 minutes, we give them that opportunity. They help bring in a positive crowd. We bring in wellness. So those who MC, maybe there's a mini fundraiser. I talk about my experience, and we have people laugh. So people have an experience who come to comedy who may not normally know about wellness, right? And they get to hear a little bit while they're laughing. The hearts are open. People are more friendly around because it's considered an event. And the first time we did it, the club owner asked how many people had been to their club. 90% had not entered that club before. And he took a gasp, and I was like, do you get what I'm doing here? This is for everyone to feel uplifted. The wait staff, I said, are you getting more tips than you ever have all year? That's the goal. Everybody feels good. No one can explain it unless you understand at a deeper level, we're doing something to shift people's consciousness. Shift people's consciousness who are in comedy, where there's a lot of mental health needed. People who want to come to a club, and then the performers, right? They get to do something in front of an audience that responds genuinely, but they want to be there for you. Los Angeles, as you could imagine, is very competitive, and it's all about trying to get a TV show, that kind of stuff. So you're not necessarily getting audiences who are of people who are, criticizing at a certain level about how your art is. And that's how the two have fused together. It was not what I expected. I tried to stop doing comedy. I tried to stop it. And a friend of mine in Atlanta, was working on doing some, meditation stuff there. And she said, yeah, I have a friend who does some not-for-profit stuff. Oh, yeah, by the way, she runs this comedy club. And it's like a big club in Atlanta. I'm like, wait, what? And then I talked to someone else about teaching meditation. And all they want to talk to me about is like, would you like to come to Japan and do some comedy there? I think they'd really like you there. And I'm like, I'm trying to change the world here through simply being a meditation teacher. Would you please stop it? And so I can't get rid of it. It's part of my destiny. It doesn't mean I'm going to be, this huge famous comic. It's something that I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I'm doing it on
I really
my
love
terms.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really love that. And in fact, the words that I'm kind of hearing, that maybe laughter is like a meditation practice, because when you're in that space of joy and you can laugh and laugh, it's almost like the same thing that happens with meditation, where you just fall into that flow and you come within and heart opens up, energy, like what you were talking about before. Yeah, it's really interesting. I've never thought of it that way, but maybe laughter is a form of meditative practice.
Well, if you're it depends on the definition, right? What is meditation? It's sort of like a doctor saying you need to get fit and lose some weight. Well, what does that mean? Does it mean you're going to walk around the street while you sip on your frappuccino? You do an action. Or are you going to run a marathon? It's still doing the same thing. And so it is with the definition of meditation, right? And we go back. Meditato comes from the Latin, to think on, right? So you had the Latin monks, and they're the ones that wrote the Bible. So they're going to have a word, because their job was to concentrate on the word of Christ, the Bible. So that's why people are like, it's to think on something. But then if you look over in the East, right, they weren't doing that with that same word. They were going within and connecting to the divine on a different way, right? But what's the overall result? People are going in, they're shifting from the fight or flight response, the sympathetic, to the parasympathetic, right? And when we laugh, we engage that respiratory system, we get out of the head, right?
Yes.
And we begin in that moment to be free. And the sound, is when musicians will love it, the sound of laughter. Right? I have little kids that live around here. When they are giggling and laughing, it's so joyous, because you hear that belly joy laugh and you recognize that. In a minute or so, it then turns to the and you're like, oh God.
Yeah.
Sound recognition of laughter. Let's have a laugh, right? It releases stress. It makes the respiratory system. So what happens when we're stressed? You tell me I have 20 things to do today. My system goes, all right. Right? I take an inhalation and exhalation naturally. When we laugh, it comes down from that diaphragm. The whole body engages with it, And that's the laughter fact of it. We also include people who are new, who want to try comedy, simply being able to express themselves. Because what's happening in society, people are editing what they wish to say because they're concerned of, and everything is videoed nowadays, right? But we go back to the old philosophers. They were standing up, philosophizing, and having tomatoes thrown at them. That's one of the purest forms we have that associates with stand-up. And when someone becomes an artist with it, they're telling their truth, their story, to resonate what it means to commune together with an experience, right? Even if you have an experience, you say, I don't like that comic, but I appreciate the work and the thought that they put into what they were doing. They're saying something. They're being willing to push the envelope, not for the sake of being shocking, but to up level the consciousness. That's what the
Yeah.
philosophers were doing. And we're losing some of that. So having someone to be able to do that in front of a supportive audience, just to express oneself in front of other people, to commune, not online, but there with other people, to feel their responses, feel their reactions, the intuition of, I'm cutting that joke, I'm going to wait for that one. It goes beyond just this head knowledge. It goes to what we really are, intuitive spirits, and connecting to someone's spirit, and that's being missed as well.
This is, do you know why I really love these conversations? And I'm, of course, indebted to, my spirit team for guiding me to do this, right? But we are talking about something that's bantered around comedy, meditation, you hear about it, everybody knows about it, blah, blah. But then when you talk and you are talking about the depth of this experience, the many layers and connections, that internal commune between the different aspects of self, that consciousness, that awareness of a process and being completely present and immersed in it, and then having that experience being embodied, is the game changer. That's it. It is so important. And so having this opportunity to have a conversation about how, your journey and what you are meant to do and what is your highest expression in this world, in this way, offers this infinite potential of love and healing and joy to the world that just ripples out. And it's, again, using like profoundly powerful, much more powerful than watching the news for 10 days straight. Like that's just yeah, what you do and the effect that your work, the way you serve the collective consciousness and the world with, being able to step into your highest potential, which the translation of that is just by simply being you. Just allowing yourself to just be you is the best way that you can be in service to yourself and then to the collective, of course. And the ripple effect of that, when all of those things align, the deepening of simple things such as taking a breath from that shallow, anxious breath to into your body consciously. The diaphragm does that beautiful thing and gets all that oxygen working and interacts with all of yourself inside. I mean, the magic is extraordinary. I really love that.
Everybody receives this based on their own state of consciousness. So what you're seeing is the multi-layers that are being presented. What you're feeling, and maybe the people who watch it, are what they can feel from me, right? Hearing my voice, what I'm talking about. Others may say, well, that was a very clean, squeaky, boring comedy set. Because that's what they're going to see. And but they are affected by the consciousness of people being around them and seeing positive. We had one event in Los Angeles, and that's the one we have more of a fundraiser with, right? And one co-producer was so concerned, like, Paula, it's just going to be so long. It's going to be so long. I was like, these people can go to the theater and there's 2 intermissions. They're going to be fine. And she said that her friends came up to her during one of the intermissions. We're having such a great time. oh my gosh, it's so much fun. I'd like to have, when we can, 2 MCs, because then they can banter with each other. One can go into the crowd and talk to the crowd, right? And the crowd likes to have the banter because they feel they're part of it, right? So when the MCs are going at it with each other, they're part of a special experience. Not in and out, 90 minutes, done. They're contributing to the experience. So we like, if we can, to be in small theatres rather than the tables, because people have a boundary there and everyone's supposed to drink tons. And that's fine too. But we don't need that for people to let their guard down, because there isn't this shelter of it. And people have enough time on stage, and people are around the event. Like, we mingle with the audience before it happens. We spend time talking to them, thanking them for coming. So they see a person up there, right, having fun. My one co-producer on the first one sent off to one of her coaches, a lot of people have coaches and whatnot. And they said, this is the best thing you've ever done. After years and years and years. And I said, oh my gosh, do you get it now, what I'm trying to do? She's like, I get it. She pushed herself. She was freer than she was before. And what does that mean on a deeper level? The authenticity shone through brighter.
Yeah.
No apologies. This is who I am. We are all here. And if we were all okay with who we were, I mean, I don't think we need all of us. I think maybe only something like 1%.
Yeah, but that my point before was that 1% can make more of a difference than if it was 70% of the alternative happening today. Like the effect, the ripple effect, the energetic effect. And even if someone doesn't quite get it in this moment, the little energetic seeds that are planted, I guess, will eventually harvest at some point.
That's the idea. The
Mm-hmm.
other element to it is, which people are always shocked by, is there is no suffering with my nonprofit. What does that mean? There will be human suffering when my body drops, because that's the cycle of what we're coming here to do. So when we do this, yes, we might be stressed. We have a spiritual upgrade every time we do it. I'm blasted through more and more the activity I can do, from being hurt, living in chronic pain, to what I'm doing now. Every time I'm breaking small mindset barriers I didn't even know I had. Right? I was a victim to it. I'm like, why? Why is that becoming such a bit of your headspace? Send that email. It doesn't matter if they respond or not. I am generating. It's not stuck on the record. It's generating. And we just see what flows back. Right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be like, but that's only when I'm in my head and I think it's supposed to be a certain way. I mean, that coming down under, oh my gosh, in the year of planning this trip.
I'm so excited about this. Please go ahead. Okay, so for the audience, Paula is about to visit our land down under. So I can't wait to meet you in person and to have you, do some of your fab gigs, etc. So anyway, tell us more about that.
Okay, so the idea was the nonprofit would go global. I wanted to support teachers globally. I've always traveled a lot. My family were in the travel industry. I like to get on planes. I like to meet new people. I'd have to hold on and not bring my passport when I go by LAX because I was likely to get on a plane. I love to do that. And I love to travel on my own in some areas. I like people. But anyway, so when the money came through to go global, the money was specifically going for the people who had helped volunteers support it. So I'm ridiculously loyal and caring to people who help out in a time of need or when something starts, right? So I wanted to be able to give those people an opportunity, either as teachers to be able to bring the nonprofit out there. And there were some contacts and information there to come down to Australia. And then I have family in New Zealand as well and do that. And I had some really solid leads. I mean, when I say solid, people who were teaching, who knew other organizations, and we just go with the flow, right? Just go with the flow. One by one, they started to diminish. And I was like, oh, well, what am I mean, think with a year advanced planning, it'll be sorted. But remembering, I live in chronic physical pain. I have to restrict what I can do on a computer. And also, with the amount of time one spends in meditation, we do less, we accomplish more. What's coming down? Where am I going? Again, no suffering. Don't stress out about it. And in that process, I realized I'm going to have to reach out to a bunch of people I don't even know, because this is not going on. I had worked with a bunch of different people. Like, my intuition was November 2022. That's when it's happening. And they all came back, and some of it freaked them. They were like, oh, yeah, November, you're right. And I was like, I have to go. I don't know why. I have to be there. And so my head was like, statistically, you send out 50 personalized, you get the emails to people about what you're doing as a program. And the program has 3 major options. One is to learn Vedic meditation, which in Australia, the current rate, I believe, is $1,100 to learn. Part of the nonprofit would be if you're low income, any state assistance, you don't have to pay the dime. You do have to give something in exchange, right? Whatever. Or if you are just around that, it's a sliding scale. It's so we take the idea of money off of the table and you teach people who are ready and want to do it, right? Mm-hmm. And then there were workshops of living in chronic pain. There are so many people who live in chronic pain who talk about it. When it happened to me all those years ago, I had to keep my mouth shut. No one wanted to address a 31-year-old whose whole life was over because they could not dress themselves anymore and they could not work. That's like, no. There must be some therapy you haven't tried, right?
Yeah.
And now it's become such an epidemic. And people are talking about it because it's been, all of the use of the oxycodone, the Vicodin, the ketamine, all of these prescribed medications have got too many people hooked that normally you'd say they're not that type of person, right? Dealing with chronic pain, how do we deal with this in it? So workshops with that, or simple ones like meditation. It's just not for men with long beards. It's for everybody, right? The stigma we have. And then finally, the comedy event, which can be hosted at any location who's willing to put it on. And we bring in some joy. You provide the audience. We come in, we enlighten the joy. There's a little bit of wellness going on because, I'm there. And I'm not going to not talk about it. And the idea is that somehow we can help someone, whether it's a domestic women's violence home, that they can have some laughter, that they can just let go and laugh, right? Private places, or whether it's more of an event that's in alignment with the actual meditation teaching. The goal is ultimately have a teaching. I will be speaking and doing other events as well. And then we have one big event together where you get people who would not come to comedy, people who just learned meditation, or is all in one room having one shared experience through laughter. And then that is a commune experience that you're not going to get in a dark room when, there's a bunch of chinking booze being turned around and drunk people. That's going to change the consciousness. And there's nothing wrong with clubs and things doing that. I mean, I perform in those places as well. I'm very careful with what I pick for what I want to do because it's outgoing, right? But that's the big goal to go. And then being able to go and just talk about how we know intuitively what is for our better good, but it doesn't fit in with paying the bills. We're in a society where it's who can buy a house in Sydney? Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The generational wealth gap is it's becoming larger and larger. And then what's being required? More hours. Work more hours. Work harder. More hours. And then you have to distract yourself on social media and feel bad about yourself. I don't have enough time to do this meditation board. I just can't. I just need to go to the spa.
I can't. Yeah.
I just go to the spa. Well, spas are brilliant. I flipping love them. But if you're not doing your own inner work, if you're not, and this is the kicker, getting free of the victim mentality, which is, where's my part? Where's my part? My part was, I thought if I sent off to 50, 60 people, I'd get one response. That's my part. That's logic. Okay. But my part is I'm harping on it. Right? Little thing. Do I want to be happy or do I want to be right? Well, I like to be happy being right. Let's just say it. But reality is I have always shifting. Where can I shift this? Where do I shift it? Perception shift, what I need to do, change the mind to make me be free. Is it delusional? Some people think, oh, that's just delusional. Yeah. Well, okay. That's fine. It's just as delusional thinking that you're going to get the Oscar. If Oscar's fixed you, you wouldn't have Oscar winners in rehab.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. If it fixed the CEOs, you wouldn't have them doing fraudulent claims to bring in more money. It doesn't fill up the soul. And we have a consciousness that is so out of balance. But what fills up the soul? Having a good belly laugh. When my mum was really sick with cancer, and she's died over a decade now, what I did was I got a whole bunch of comics we liked, and we just watched them and laughed and laughed and laughed. You know, I mean, she had a few coughing fits and we had to stop. But the idea was she could feel some joy while she's dealing with her transition.
Yeah. I can think of so many examples where people are on the outset really, really, really successful, either in their careers or, you know, they're really abundant and prosperous financially. And in fact, the other day I was talking to somebody and this man was telling me how he had gone out on this date with a lady who was a very successful property investor or something like that. But how that fizzled out really quickly because she was a coke addict.
Yeah.
And I was like, yep, there it is. You know, there's just so many examples of that. And yeah. So that external factor, external success, what I'm hearing you say, doesn't always or hardly ever guarantee internal success or health and well-being of any sort.
If it's done for the pure need to attain it, no.
That's right.
If it occurs through doing something that one is aligned with or joy, then absolutely.
Yeah. And then it's just in that flow of abundance, and it's a matter of, you know, what comes back to you, as you say. It's like those, you know, 50, 60 emails and you send it out and see what sticks and comes back. Yeah. And something will come back. It's a little bit like when you're aligned with your purpose, it'll come back. Abundance comes back.
I was not wanting to do any comedy gigs in Australia or New Zealand. I was like, oh, I felt I felt icky. I wanted to try to create an event for the wellness and have that be a big event, and then use that to try to get more people to be aware of ways to have, you know, mental health options that weren't medication. Medication, please understand, I'm not against that at all. What I am against is the dependence of how it's easily just given to people, right? And my body built up a tolerance. That's the thing. I built up a tolerance. And so I needed more, but it wasn't doing this. And so that was sort of not moving forward. And then someone's like, well, yeah, you want to do some comedy gigs? I was like, I suppose. And then people are like, I'm so sorry, we can only give you this MC. Like, they booked 3 months in advance. I had no idea. And then I'm like, well, gosh darn it. If I'd known that, I would have done that sooner. And I was like, oh, wait, that's not what you were planning to do. And everything is orchestrated. And I hate saying this perfectly. Because where I'm going to end up, where I'm supposed to be, I couldn't have got there if I went the other way.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be having this chat with you.
That's true.
Right? Because last minute someone said, try this event. And I look on its website and I just get these energetic, good vibes from a few people. I reach out to them. And one of them was your first guest who says, I think you guys would be a good, let me see. And you know what? Give it to Nicholas's integrity. He followed through on every single one he said he would. Right? And we're here. That would never have happened. So my path, it's almost like, you know, the divine is trying to get me to here. And I'm like, okay, so I need to go here. So in order for me to go here, I'm going to go from here and I'm going to go around it and up and over. I'm trying to do this mirror, okay? And divine is like, there. So we need to take your Paula to this level. And then we need to go slowly, 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 slowly. There we go. Right? And of course, then my ego says, well, why couldn't I just know that in the first place? But where's the lesson? Where's the growth? I am more okay being in my body than I have ever been in my whole life. Yeah. I'm much happier with Paula because Paula can do Paula and be appreciated for who Paula is rather than who Paula is supposed to look like or supposed to be. And most of those were cultural and societal ideas. Don't laugh, Paula. You laugh too blooming loud. Too loud.
Who said that?
Ooh, too many
Who
people
said
in
that?
England. Too many people in England. Oh, too many people.
Really? Okay.
And so now people are like, will you please come to my show? Because I need you to get everyone laughing. Because your laughing is kind of contagious.
Contagious.
Right? If I could stop that. Oh, but then you see, and I'm not going to get, let myself off the hook. Because if my consciousness was different, I wouldn't have let that get to me. But it did. Right? So, I mean, I feel like, oh, didn't get a book to live life. I'm behind. That's my story. You're behind. For years and years with my injury, because I couldn't perform the way other people did who went to my drama school, who, work all the time, big movies. And then I went to a dinner with some of my classmates and I had a quick look around and a lot of them had quit for whatever reason. And I thought, oh my goodness, I'm the only one at this table that actually makes money in that industry to get insurance, to get a pension credit, which is only 5% at any time of anyone in the Screen Actors Guild. And I thought,
oh, wow.
Oh, whoa. I have to change my story, my perception. Because here I am thinking if I wasn't hurt, I'd be on the screen more, I could do all these other things, right? And yet here I am realizing I actually am doing this. Oh. Oh. And another moment of change the perception, change the story. And then what does that do? Floods into gratitude. And when there is gratitude, oh my gosh, so much more comes. There's the real attraction versus promotion, which you would think is not true about the amount that we post on Instagram and we have to tag people. I mean, that's just part of the business, unfortunately. And I don't particularly care for it. And it's really hard for me to do on my injury. But it is the idea of, like you said, when our consciousness expands, when we remove that trauma, we start to have that vibration of who we truly are as a person. That speaks volumes. I was at the coffee shop the other day. This woman walks by, she goes, "And don't think that I haven't seen your brightness." And she walked off. And I was like, okay. Takes one to know one, right?
Yeah. So I'm just thinking, so you were mentioning before what your initial goals were and how sort of the flow has taken you from here to there, to there, to there, to there, to now getting to where you're at right now.
Yeah.
But is how can we help you? So say there's someone listening here and they might know like a center or an organization that deals with people with that. How can we invite more of that to support your work or for you to connect with? Yeah.
Brilliant.
What can we do? What are you looking for?
Love it. I'm looking for as much support and love by those who are enthused or feel there's something that they want to contribute, right? I often have, when people say, I want to help, I ask them to feel what they want to do. What would they attracted to when they heard me talk, right? So logistically, if they are somebody who, I don't know, off the top of my head, runs a sober living, runs a women's center, or men, like divine masculine is in big trouble, we need more support for men, and say, I would love to have one of your things. What can we do? Then you'll go to awaremeditation.com. That's Aware Meditation. That's the nonprofit. And you just reach out to me, right? If someone feels like, oh, when you're here, I want to help support you with, oh, I'll drive you different places. Or I know someone who can go on your radio show here. Or here's another group you can meet for next time. Or, that I want people who are enthused to be creative. With, and if they're, I know someone, or if they're like, I don't know anyone, I just really loved what you said, can I donate? Like, that will work too, but it has to come. I want whoever's heart is attracted to it to do that. And even if they're like, I don't know about this meditation, but you're kind of a funny chick, maybe I'll come and see your show. Then you can just look up Paula J. Newman and then just send me a message and I'll tell you what shows that I'm doing, right? The idea is that there is attraction to want to be of service somehow, because I don't know why that person may be coming towards me. They may be coming towards me to get to an event, to meet someone who's going to change their life forever. And that's why they're drawn to me. I came to your show. I met them at the show and now they're my best buddies, or we do work together, or I saw them 3 months later and I helped them out. Like, yes. Be that connection, be that source where people, I don't know why I'm drawn to that. Am I drawn to you because I want to learn the meditation? Because the other courses that we do, is part of that sliding scale, but you have to attend the outreach course at the times they say and when they're going to do it. Like, it's not like if you go to a regular teacher, you can do it whenever it works for your time frame. No, that's part of the give. You got to show up when we're doing the course, participate then. So these are ways that people can participate, but I want it to be done with joy and enthusiasm. So even if someone is like, I don't know how I can help, but I feel like I want to do something, like maybe they're in chronic pain watching this and we're like, how can she be so vibrant? I can tell you, find the way to be of service and find a way to get out of yourself and help others within physical parameters, right? That right for your soul, and be around other people doing that. And start to be around. And so just say, I don't know what I could do, but I could send some emails. I could do some pictures for you on Instagram. Show up, take pictures, do that. But let me know, just reach out. It's so simple. And maybe the act of reaching out is all that one is capable of doing. But that's what needs to be done to start that next connection of someone moving on their next path. I am definitely what I call a spark person. I ignite the spark in people. Ignite people to get infused and have it move through. Things I've created before in my life, they come up like that showcase from my drama school. I move away and it's been going for 20 years.
Wow.
That's how you know you've created something as a conduit for the divine or consciousness, because it goes when you step aside. To know that I was utilized for a higher purpose brings me fulfillment.
That's really quite, it's extraordinary. It takes a while to come into that awareness though, and it definitely takes a degree, a large degree of I want to say spiritual intelligence, but I don't mean it in a guru kind of a way, but just that in terms of
you can, it's fine. You can mean it in a guru kind of way.
Yeah. I mean, if you have any secrets about how to levitate in the corner somewhere in your bedroom, great to share. Just kidding. But not.
By the way, I think when
Yeah.
it comes to all the gurus, that's actually not going to happen until the consciousness of the collective is raised, because you actually are brought down by the collective consciousness. So it's not one individual's feat, it's the collective consciousness. I don't think that's going to happen in my lifetime.
Yeah, we've still got a little bit of work to do, but at least it is in the consciousness.
Yes.
That's a start.
Yes, yes. All things, it's a beautiful time here. It's where I can say, hey, did you see that sunset? And be like, yeah. Rather than in the consciousness of everybody acknowledges it every day. It's really quite special when one connects to another soul, regardless of gender, race, culture, but we connect through that because we have that shared experience that is quite rare, and we're not raised to have that as the norm. And so we get to experience the special and the beauty of it, that deep emotional connection, and feel that we are part of something greater for strangers. We're basically strangers, and we get to feel that connection, real connection, deep soul connection that just bypasses the old noggin and feels good, kind of like booze did when it worked.
Yeah, but there's that tiny little thing about how it ends up becoming a crutch that doesn't serve very well in the long term.
Oh yeah, absolutely. What do they say? I think they say the devil will come at you with a smile and flatter you, but the angel will mess you up so you can get free of that which is no longer serving who you truly are. So if you got all messed up with anything that I've said today, here are my wings.
I can hear the flapping. I can feel the butterfly effect, which is going to make it the wing effect of the flapping wings.
Yep.
Angel wings. Yeah. That's amazing. So, okay. We're an hour into this conversation. That felt like 10 minutes. Wow. So I just want to recap the beautiful words that you presented with us today about laughter being, or how laughter is actually medicine, how it serves us on all different levels, holistically, intuitively, in flow, in every way, physically, emotionally, mentally, because it helps bring us out of that thinking brain more into the body and allows us to expand as human beings, but in different ways, from perhaps the heart center, that allows the body, gives the body an opportunity to relax more and heal, certainly momentarily. So laughter infuses the body with well-being, ongoing well-being. So that's really, I think people know this, but I think there's a difference between, like understanding something intellectually, but then really embodying it, or like really knowing it, like all the way through. All the way through.
That's the part.
To the tips of the toes. Yeah.
I will say that's where the newer movement of healing, somatic response, neurological response, that's where, when it got to my injury, before COVID, those conversations were happening, which weren't around before. Every year I try new therapy, right? I didn't know that hyperbaric oxygen chambers actually helped with COVID, but I was going through a blast of that to see, would that get into my tissues and change the myofascial pain syndrome that I have? The answer
Mm-hmm.
is no. But I did have a clearer mind, and I didn't die of COVID when I got COVID. And I had that experience of that therapy, right? But the programming of the brain to tell the body to go into fight or flight when it's at a certain place is a pattern in itself. And I had, as part of my path, connected with someone who the first time ever was able to, they saw the beta waves. Even though I meditate and I have way more alpha waves, they saw the beta waves and was able to help literally clear within my physiology moments or fight or flight responses that had me be able to embody even more, because I was jammed up. There's intellectually knowing, if one goes into an MRI, I am not going to be crushed. I'm not going to die. But all MRI technicians will tell you about how people cannot be in that small space and they will go into fight or flight. That's a deep somatic response beyond the brain, right? Why is my body having this response? Why? PTSD with vets, right? Or any PTSD from COVID. Let's just talk about that, okay? It's a response now. And the mind can only train one in waking state when there's enough space that the physiology isn't still restricted by that somatic fight or flight response, right? So what I tell people is, if they want to do a healing journey from what I went to, is yes, go do all the medical tests, find out what's going on medically, look at that, but then go the backwards road, go to practitioners who are starting to deal with how do we deal with the brainwaves having that fight or flight response, and people who can help clear generational trauma that one is holding in the body down the DNA that is not yours to hold anymore. Yeah. And this is science. They've proven if you inject a rat who then has babies and they're allergic to, I think, flowers or something, then the babies are allergic to it too, right? I mean, it's that quickly, and it can skip a generation too, right? So we come in with, whether someone believes in souls or reincarnation or not, that's got nothing to do with what I'm talking about now. We come in with something from before. We come in with the 9 to 10 months or 8 months of gestation, or whatever trauma happened with the mother. And if those eggs really were created when that mother was 5 months, and that mother created her eggs when she was 5 months in there, that means you've got to have at least 3 generations talking about clearing the trauma over and over and over for someone to start at 0.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how deep it goes. Work on that stuff. Work on what was your part, that you're still holding people hostage. Even if you're a child and it was wrong what happened to you. Why is it still in your mind? Why? Work on your part of it, on the intellectual part, work on the medical part, and then start having people work on clearing what's in the body, the generational trauma. And it's not just subject to indigenous people. Every human being on this planet has generational trauma. Others more than worse. Absolutely. Absolutely. But if we work on all of those 3 elements, which, body, mind, spirit is what that is, it will start to break and the healing will go faster. Because one will be able to listen to one's intuition, because this, reason it likes this, is because it's trying to get a solution to a problem. But the problem is, most of the time there's no problem. So it's always going like this because it thinks it needs to protect the body. The body is protected by the mind, but the mind gets stuck in a loop. If we help the mind go naturally, fight or flight, sympathetic, parasympathetic, but if we do it too much, that is a trauma in itself. Because if we're used to having our bodies at these high adrenal level, right, fight or flight, when we bring it down, that's trauma. It's like, wait, what are we doing? People who get their teeth fixed. Anyone who's watched people have braces, they follow through, but if that is now trauma to the mouth. Having the teeth in the right position is traumatic. So you have to make sure the trauma doesn't try to undo itself, right? So COVID has brought up a whole bunch of trauma that's gone on, right? So we have to clear that and move through that. Yeah. Right? So this is the pathway.
Compounded trauma, because, compounded on top of what we were already carrying and amplified more.
Well, it fits the story. right, it
Yeah,
fits
it
the
does.
story. So
Yeah.
if I have a story that people are all out to get me, which was pretty much what I was trained, you know, as a child, be careful, we can get you, blah, blah, blah. We didn't have the same financial means. Ridiculous things. Like when I went to the equivalent of a school where they change and you get your books for different classes, I believed that if I didn't carry my books for every single class every day, they might change the schedule on me. And if they do that, I wasn't going to get caught out. That's just not normal. Like, why is the headmaster going to want to do that? Because you're so special, Paula? I was like, no, they're not going to get me. That's deep embedded, like fight or flight response. You know, I was called the girl with the house because my bag looked like a blooming house. I had all the books in it. And then I had a locker, and in it I put like a pencil and paper. I was like, I don't know, they can look through this at any moment and they could get me. I was like, what is that? That is not proportional to how I actually grew up. Right? I had this mentality, right? There's something there. And when people are younger, that's why it's good. Talk about stuff. Go to therapy if you need to. But know that it's the deeper stuff in the physiology that needs to be cleared out. And that's not going to be done through sitting in a circle, singing to the earth.
Yeah, and what I'm kind of hearing that you're getting at here as well is that the awareness and the clearing doesn't just happen with one modality. Like there are layers to this. There are several things you have to do. There's no getting around the fact that internal work needs to be done. And there are several ways in which to do this. It's not just one size fits all at all, ever.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the shows we did, I believe it's domestic violence nonprofit, the head came up to me and said, we need more of this stuff for women to hear their stories and laugh at it, because they need to release the trauma in their bodies. Like just laughing that you're not alone. You're not alone. Just today, I'm going to get in trouble. My stepdaughter calling, just confessing that she did some silly thing and made up some lie. And I just laughed. You know, she's, 20, right? And I was like, let me tell you what I did when I was older than you. And I made up some lie. I didn't want to turn up to a day job. Oh my God, my fiance's, my fiance's father is like, oh, he's dying. First of all, I didn't have a fiance. Right. I did know someone who I was dating who had a dad. Right? I mean, I was just like, I just couldn't emotionally handle going to that day job, and I was like, this is what I'll come up with, and she was like, what? I go, oh yeah, we all do it. But now you're realizing you've created more of a web of lies and you have to overcome it, but just learn from it. It's like, you're having anxiety. What are you doing? Are you walking? You're in your head. You're not in your body. Simply walking. Not exercising and sweating, that's something else, that's also good, but walking, you're not putting the adrenals up, you're moving the body, you're breathing, and you allow the mind. A lot of writers, you get up, you go for a walk. Around them, I bump into them all the time, like, hey, you do, like, I'm doing my walking writing, and they're listening to maybe one song over and over again just to allow the mind. Or people just put earbuds in nowadays as an excuse, like, I don't want to talk to you, I want to put my earbuds in. And so we all have our stuff, and just knowing it's okay. And this doesn't mean, it doesn't have to be the privileged or the wealthy that can do this. It should be available for everyone.
And the thing is that, like you just explained, sometimes the best things come in either little packages or are completely free. What you just described about going for a walk, that doesn't cost anything. It doesn't cost money. It's like, get up and move your butt, go somewhere. Like, I don't necessarily go for a walk, but I dance. I love dancing. So I move. Like, I make up choreographies in my head, and I have a silent disco or whatever, and, like, going on or whatever.
Well, it is a thing, silent disco, isn't it? Like,
yeah. And I have this great world that I create, and I just, that none of that costs money. That's the beauty of this. Well-being is not at a price. There are some things that you can go and learn, but essentially that in our innate capacity to be well is free of charge. And it is our, well, one of a better expression, our God-given right to do so.
Yes, I mean, people only value things that are paid for because that's what we've been taught. Value is not based on currency. Right? When someone passes and they're younger, everybody shows up, right, at the celebration of life, right? And then we talk about the value of that person, of what they did, or a conversation, right? But we're not taught as we're raised that a value of what we can bring and who we are is not based on money. Like, oh, well, that would demerit the value of what we're offering. Would it? But the problem is people are believing it. And people are paying lots and lots of money to say, well, you know, I did this course and now I feel better. Great. The reality is it's the state of the consciousness of the participant. Right? That participant can come and sit on the same course that costs nothing, or they watch and get what they need and move through. That's what we want to do. We need to change the state of the consciousness of the individual, right? The consciousness of, you know, going for a walk. You know, again, that changing that story. I was so, I couldn't afford to go on the first teacher training course. I didn't have the money for it. You know, I was, you know, on disability. And now I look back, I'm like, glad I wasn't with that lot. I was with another group of people, which were my participants, right? Yes, there's a fire that gets me going. Go on, do this, have a goal, move it, do it. Yes, that gets me into action. Otherwise, I'll sit around and I'll watch, you know, House of Dragons over and over again, you know, because I enjoy watching stuff like that. But it's changing. Well, what can I do? What can I do? You know, because I've had experiences where sometimes money flows and I get to the chiropractor or the bodywork more times. And then my body actually has a tap out and says, no, we're just going to plateau with this number of visits. I was like, well, forget that then.
Yeah. Yeah. And the body does have a consciousness of its own, of course, a very, very,
Yes, because otherwise I wouldn't be aging.
Subtle. Nice, I like it. Well done, you. Okay, so so you get to Sydney on the 9th of November.
Yes, I land 5 hours after the eclipse.
Wow.
I hope I can get to see it on the plane.
Yes, I hope so too.
You're not supposed to, apparently, like, you know, Ayurvedically wise, you're not supposed to be traveling during eclipse. Oh, well.
Well, there you go. That's too late. And you're meant to see it. Yeah. It's going to be amazing, actually.
I hope so. It's going to be like 5 hours before we land, so everyone's going to be like, groggy. You know, and it's packed flight because they cancelled one, which is what's happening with planes. So everyone's packed in there like sardines. So I don't know, maybe I'll get to meet a new friend. So next to a new friend, or who knows?
You never know. Yeah. And then you have some, so what I might do is I'll copy and paste the information you sent me about the gigs. So people can come and see you.
I would love it.
Yeah, just in the comments. And actually, I did this thing before. Now I'm gonna do a bit of, okay. So there's a little, they call it a ticker beneath. So it's got information about my website and then yours as well, so that people can go and visit your website, paulajanenewman.com, for details about your work, your meditation foundation, how they can get in contact with you. And then I will add in the comments the links to the different shows that you're going to be emceeing or being a part of while you're here.
That's
so if
fabulous.
Anybody wants to contact, talk to you, visit you, connect with you, email you, offer some support or help, or they have a contact they think that you could connect with, they can do all of that for you and with you. I hope that's okay.
Yes, that's brilliant. And there's just the ones in the Sydney area are varying dollars amounts, varying different types of shows. And then when I head to New Zealand on the 21st, that's a bit more up in the air with what's going on. Still looking for a place to maybe teach the wellness or do that. So if there are people who know people who are like, what, that would be blooming brilliant, then reach out. Again, this is all following where I'm supposed to do or what I'm doing, and really just a demonstration for other people. There are so many friends I have or people I've talked to about it who are excited to see what's going to happen. Why? Because I'm sitting here honestly telling you how something tried to sort out a certain way, but I know I'm supposed to be somewhere. It's sort of like that Matthew McConaughey when he had a dream and then he just took the money and went to Africa and he felt like he was spiritually fulfilled. Well, I don't have that money and I'm not him, but I'm supposed to be doing this. And when we get to witness people really doing that, and our souls have recognition of that, it is inspiring. And so what might be considered a failure on the outside to other people, it completely is not. It completely is not. Like, I applied.
It absolutely is not. I think it's amazing.
TED talk, and they never got back to me. I'm like, okay, I guess I didn't get that one. Okay, but in the applying, in the action of it, I was like, oh, I found some stuff out. Like, there never is a loss. Like, people are like, I don't know, I was with them. They took the best years of my life. Didn't give them children. I was like, well, wait a second. What do you mean they took the best years of your life? You were with them. You had an experience with another human being. You learned something. You thought it was going some way. You made a decision that you thought that was that person. They weren't. Something else is on the horizon for you. Better. It is, I promise you. But if we don't have examples of people who do this or who blog about, I don't know why, I knew I needed to go. And we don't have that I want to say that initial instinctive learning and people demonstrating it, then we're never going to start to be able to do that ourselves. And asking for help is huge. When I got hurt, I had to ask for help. That was hard for me. Really hard. I can't tell you how many times I cried. At one point, I was taking an ESL. I had to take a class to be able to teach ESL, English as a second language. Right after I got hurt, I was like, what can I do? I guess I'll teach. And the distance was far. It was an hour. And that's an hour there and an hour back. There's a lot of driving for me with my injury. And I called, like, one person's like, yeah, I could kind of help you. And I got a bad vibe. And then another person said, yeah, no worries. When I called all these people for the ride, and it was like so hard for me to call and say, hey, I met you. I talked to you. I have an injury. Can I carpool with you? One of them was like, oh, no, my wife doesn't let me drive with other women. And I was thinking, then why did you blimmin' offer? And I was like literally in tears of the rejection of why I even had to make these calls, like how hard it was. And then I finally called the person that I got a weird vibe from. And they were like, yes, I'll come and pick you up. And I'm like, whoa, I'll meet you at the corner. And then as it turns out, he's driving me there. His wife runs one of the schools and they want an ESL teacher. And on the way back, he drops me off to her school. I have an interview with her. And I basically had it given to me, a job, without even trying. And yet I was going through how hard it was for me to ask for help and reach out to people. And so leaving that space for others to support us is allowing other people to help people. And as you know, and I know, when I get to help someone and I'm part of their journey, it feels so good when they say, yes, guess what just happened? You're like, I was part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. It's very rewarding to journey alongside someone as their lives improve or shift as a result of something that you've or I've done. I'll own it. I'll speak to that. Yeah. Really super humbling. I'm always so deeply grateful whenever people allow me to be a part of their lives in that really deep, intimate way. And so when there's, as they begin to shift and change and move more towards what they want and how they see their life to really be at their fullest potential, Oh man, that's so good. It's so good. There's so much love in that space. So much love. Yeah. It's really lovely. And I don't need to romanticize it at all. It just really feels like that. It's really heartwarming and tender and intimate and beautiful, and you know, all the all the good shit, the hard things. Yeah. Yeah, really good stuff. Yeah, really, really good stuff. In any way possible, whether it's group, whether it's this podcast, whether it's a one-on-one client, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Or just a conversation over coffee.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Or a smile.
Paula, is there anything else that you would like to say before we finish up today? I'm so grateful. This has been such a rich conversation.
Anything else I'd like to say? Yeah, I think if there are people listening who know they're going through a dark night of the soul journey, that breathing, watching pranayama videos, breathing and walking, and knowing that the people around you that maybe you thought were there supporting you the whole time might give advice, because when an individual upgrades their consciousness, it's a threat to other people whose life and foundation is not needing to do that. And so it's recreating your new support network, your new soul tribe, and you're not alone in doing it. And the consciousness, the planet will be better off for you doing it. And quite frankly, if you don't, you're just going to get bashed on the head by the 3D until you surrender. I mean, that is just what happens. So, you're not alone. Everyone has something. Everyone does. And, if you have children, you're their coach. They're not you, but they're here to teach you.
Oh my God, yes.
They're here to teach you when one can take away the genetics or the likeness. And you're not your children. Your children are not a reflection of how you are in society. I mean, still we have huge problems with marginalization and prejudice. And I would say, living in chronic pain isn't fun. But if you don't live in chronic pain, you think, what is this woman waffling on about? You will get yours. I'm sorry, you will. There will be something in your life that will become a stumbling. And if there's someone or something that you won't let go of, it keeps coming back in your mind over and over again, whether it's an intuition, it keeps coming back and you're trying to push it down, that's an indication that some action needs to be taken. And just take it. Just take the risk. Don't take the risk because it's financial. Take the risk because it's spiritual. Do that. Take that risk.
Mm-hmm. Big, beautiful quantum leap.
There you go. Mm-hmm. Yeah, quantum leap.
Love that. Big, deep breath. That's amazing. The whole body expands.
That whole body can expand. Yes, that's right. And I'm looking at myself, see the reflection. I was like, oh my gosh, I look like my mum. And it's fascinating where we just have these moments of, oh, there's something. There's something. I'm going to be down under when it was her birthday. So that's something that's just come to mind for a reason.
Oh, okay. Right. So she's passed over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A long time ago, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right, okay. Okay, maybe we can talk about that if there's any way that I can support you when you're here.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
If there's anything you need. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
all right, my beautiful darling. Paula, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you for your time.
Oh my gosh. Yabba, yabba, yabba.
As it should be. That's the point. Yabba, yabba, yabba. There's wisdom out there, right? We talked about the throat chakra and being able to speak that divine truth out, put it out there into the universe, even if it's just planting seeds.
Throat chakra, but we've got a lot of green, which is heart chakra, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Those two tend to work really well together when they're in flow.
Funny, right?
Yeah. All right, my darling, I think we're going to finish it here. Yeah, I want to officially and publicly welcome you to the land of Oz when you get here.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I really look forward to meeting you. And thank you again so much for being a part of this podcast and sharing
My pleasure.
yourself with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. All right, my darling. I'll catch you later, okay? We'll talk again. Okay. Bye, sweetheart. Bye.